Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Gina Rowe and I'm going to do a quick haul video since I've been getting ready for Christmas decorating and Thanksgiving and have done a little bit of shopping specifically for prepping. One of the things you'll notice is I don't have any perishable groceries in here. These are all shelf-stable foods that are either for my short-term, medium-term, or long-term storage. And I'll go over each of those categories and what I have purchased to beef up each of those areas. So to start with, I have some things that have a shorter shelf life, typically something closer to 6 months or 1 year. Things like the brown rice. Brown rice has about a 6-month shelf life because it has more oils in it than regular white rice. But I prefer eating brown rice with certain dishes. So I thought that was a great thing to have on hand. Some of the other things that have a shorter shelf life are things like the cornbread mix. And I picked this one up specifically because it is a just add water as opposed to the Jiffy where you have to add milk and eggs. I have shifted to purchasing only cornbread mixes that are just add water because in a grid down situation, you may only have access to water. I also picked up some Idahoan potatoes. These are about 10 packets with a variety of different flavors in them. They have some that are buttery flavored and cheesy flavored and such. And then I also bought a few boxes of the plain Idahoan. But I specifically buy the Idahoan brand instant potatoes because they are also just add water. They have about a 1-year shelf life as is. I think these are probably pretty true to 1 year because they have like butter and cheese and other flavorings in it, even though you just add water. Although I do know that if you repackage the plain potato flakes, you can get them to be more of a forever food. But I love them because you can do the just add water. They make a complete meal or a fabulous side along with... I use the plain potato flakes a lot for a thickening agent when I'm making soups and stews and such. I also have some little pasta mixes here and then some others here. They have between a 6-month and 1 year shelf life. And I do them just because they're a really, really simple grab and go dinner at the end of a long day. I work a really busy full-time job, plus I'm a full-time grad student. So some really easy dinners are super important to me. I also have a couple things like the Red Lobster mixes. They do require ingredients from your fridge, but they are such an easy thing and they're so incredibly tasty that it's worth it to keep a little bit around. Also things like I keep some crackers around because I do keep soups for my mid-range preps. And then I also have things like this. This is a complete casserole in a box. It literally has everything you need in the box to make this. It says it right there on top. And don't get me wrong, this is super carb heavy because it has chicken along with mashed potatoes and biscuits. So if you're carb loading, this is your perfect casserole. But I grabbed it because it was shelf stable and had everything you needed right there in the box to make up a simple little casserole for dinner. Then moving on to things that I have that are a little bit longer shelf life are things like some of my canned foods you see over here. I keep some fruits and vegetables. I do a lot with tomato products, so I have both tomato paste and diced tomatoes, and I have some tomato sauce already in my cupboard. I do a lot with tomato. One of the reasons I keep a little bit more tomato paste around is just because from a size standpoint, like if you compare, this is 12 cans of tomato paste compared to 12 cans a regular size, and they just take up significantly less space. So I can store more tomato paste in the same size. So if I want a little boost of that tomato flavoring, tomato paste is a great way to do it. I do keep quite a bit of canned corn around. I kind of switched from eating frozen corn to canned corn, mostly because I don't have a separate freezer. And I really like canned corn. I think it's pretty comparable to the frozen corn, although there are certain canned foods that I don't like as well. Like I much prefer frozen peas to canned peas. So I'm saving my freezer space for some of those. But these are also just so much more shelf stable. If the power goes out, I will likely lose everything in my freezer. But the canned corn has got a 2-year shelf life from when I purchased it. And so I do that with the canned corn. I also buy some canned fruits. I have both applesauce and like mandarin oranges and some pineapple and stuff like that I keep around. They're a great little treat. And if I couldn't get out to go grocery shopping, to have some fruit around that was canned is great. I do not currently grow a garden or preserve any of my own foods. I just don't have time for it. So having some good canned foods that have a 2-year shelf life, that are things that I enjoy eating, are a way to make sure I'm still eating a balanced nutritional diet. Additionally, not only do I like applesauce just plain, but it is great to cook with. I almost always cook, when I make a cake mix or something, I love to use applesauce instead of the egg and the oil that's required, and they turn out great. So applesauce is just one of those great staples. And again, this stuff all has about a 2-year shelf life. Then I have also purchased a few canned ingredients for a couple of other specific recipes that need those ingredients, that I'm using shelf-stable options to prepare. And then just soups are always just a great thing to have around. Tomato soup, you can't beat tomato soup with the grilled cheese sandwich on a cold, rainy day. And then I also keep some Progresso soups around. They are ready to go. Open the can and eat them. You don't even have to heat them up if there's a situation where you can't heat them. You can't eat them straight. But it's also just a ready-to-grab dinner that I can just eat at the end of a long day. Grab some crackers and a can of soup, and there's a really simple dinner. Then a couple of other things that have about that 2-year shelf life are some things like the jams will probably last a little bit longer, but peanut butter, you're going to really push it to get to more than 2 years. And I don't eat a lot of regular peanut butter. I much prefer natural peanut butter, but peanut butter is such a great thing to store. It's so shelf stable. It's a great protein. It's super affordable. Everybody likes it. And worst comes to worst, I can either donate it to a food pantry, or I can make a lot of peanut butter cookies, which is also a really good thing. And then moving into some of the little bit more preppery, but these are also have about a 2-year shelf life, is these Bear Creek soup mixes. And I like it. It makes 8 servings. Most of them are just add water. And you can also beef them up pretty easily. I have cheddar broccoli tortilla. I have a number of other ones around, so you can make a nice big pot of soup, last you for a couple of days. They're also really, really easy to, like the cheddar broccoli, I love to throw a can of diced tomatoes or diced potatoes into, or some corn, some other vegetables. Really easy to beef them up and stretch out your dinners even longer in a more difficult situation. The bread flour has about a 1-year shelf life, but there are things you can do with bread flour to stretch it out. You want to store it in a little bit better situation. And then other foods I have here are, I have sugar and salt. You should have 8 pounds of salt per person in your household. So buying some salt and keeping it around. Salt and sugar will store forever, properly stored. And honestly, I just take these the way they're packaged now and throw them in a 5-gallon bucket, throw a lid on them, good. You don't need an oxygen absorber. You just need to keep moisture out, and they will store forever, which is so fabulous. I also have some pasta here. These I picked up at the Dollar Tree when I was picking up some Christmas stuff. They are 24 ounces, which is £1.50 each for $1. I picked up 6 packages, which is 9 pounds of pasta for $6. Pasta is such a great thing. When you store it properly, it'll last you for 30 years. And this is 72 servings of pasta for $6. So a really, really economical way to stretch your food dollar and to build a good foundation for your food pantry. I also have some rice and some beans here. Again, when properly stored, rice and beans have a 30-year shelf life. which I will restore these. And you can put them into Mylar bags. You can put them into a food saver thing. You can put them in a canning jar. There are a number of ways to store them to stretch out their shelf life. And there are two other things that I bought that I don't typically buy. But I bought them because of the current situation and the potential for lockdown. One is minute rice. I much prefer real rice. But real rice takes longer to cook, whereas minute rice cooks in a minute, right? It doesn't need as much heat. It doesn't need as much fuel to prepare. So I did buy 1 box of minute rice just in case there's a situation. I will keep it in my pantry. It's got about an 18-month shelf life on this box. And so next spring, if I haven't used it, I'll either give it to someone or donate to a food pantry or something, because it's not one of my favorite things. But that is one of the exceptions to how I typically eat. The other thing is I did stock up on a lot of these little flavoring packets. They're like 30 cents a piece. There's Sloppy Joe. There's gravy mixes. I've got spaghetti and taco seasoning in here. I've got a packet for an enchilada and ranch dressing. Those little 30-cent packets are a great thing to keep a little stash around. They last far longer than the expiration date on them. They are a super simple way to add flavoring into what you're cooking, and they take up next to zero space. I have almost 24 little packets here. They take up half of a basket, as opposed to taking up, 2 sets of 24 cans to create the same amount of stuff. And most of these are just add water or really simple ingredients. So the flavoring packets are a really great way to go. Additionally, I picked up a few other little seasonings. One is I picked up soy sauce just because I have so much rice stored. It was $1 for a bottle of soy sauce. Soy sauce is another forever food. It never goes bad. It's so sodium intense that you can literally store it on your shelf forever. And then I picked up some other seasonings. They were all about $1 a piece. I picked up some additional chicken bouillon, some cinnamon, because I have sugar. So cinnamon and sugar, you can do a lot of things that will give you something a little sweet. Garlic powder adds a lot of flavoring. And then a couple of others. These were at the dollar store. They're a little garlic and herb thing. They were $1 a piece. They have kind of a mix of spices in them. They're great for flavoring dishes. They're fabulous for meats. You can even make a really simple garlic bread if you're doing a lot of pasta dishes like I do. Super handy to have around. And then I also grabbed a couple of these butter popcorn seasoning. Again, they were $1 at the dollar store. And because I have so much rice and potatoes and things that are really kind of plain, having something that has a little bit of butter flavor, I thought would be good to add onto those. And if not, I'll use it when I make popcorn. So that's kind of it for all of this food. I spent right around $150. It was less than that. I bought some other Christmas stuff with it, so I don't have an exact amount, but it was pretty close to $150 to get a really great variety of stuff that is all shelf stable and that is going to do a lot to enhance my pantry for short term, medium term, and even some of my longer term forever foods included in this, so that I know that I'm going to have food if something should happen where either our food supply is shut down or the stores are shut down, or these are crazy times and we just don't know what's going to happen. And so to be a little bit more prepared for a really reasonable price is so important. So whatever you do, next time you run to the store, grab a few things and think about what you can do to set aside to do something today to be prepared.